wanted to talk to you about Bol Bol and what has transpired with the Nuggets 7-2 forward.
Yeah. The Bol Bol. This has been, as you mentioned, we booked tickets to Summer League, which I may never do again. Like, Vegas is exciting, but it's hot and expensive, and Summer League is not NBA level basketball.
And we're never going to be comfortable in crowds for the rest of our life.
Oh my God, dude. I know. I remember because I had to go to the bathroom before the Nuggets game started, and they wouldn't let people back in, and I was like, I have a seat. But I remember the crush of people pushing into the stadium, and how that will never happen. I'm maybe 80 years old. I will never feel comfortable doing that again. But life comes at you fast. We went to Las Vegas because we love our Denver Nuggets, but specifically because there was a chance to see both Michael Porter Jr. and Bol Bol play. So those who don't know Bol Bol, he is the son of one of the NBA's first unicorns in Manute Bol, 7'6" center out of Sudan, who at the time, you've never seen a player. He's 7'6", skinny as all hell. He's was just incredible to watch, a blocking machine, and he could actually even shoot the three every once in a while. He was never the greatest player, but a fan darling, and always just stands out because of just what a physical force he was on the court. His son, Manute Bol passed away a few years ago, blessed, but his son picks up his legacy. Was one of the early darlings of the NCAA season, played in Oregon, looked like he could be a beast. I remember sitting at a bar, drinking a beer, watching him play. Thing I may never get to do again. He played great in Oregon, but then injured his foot and only got 8 games in the season and was done. And he's also a super tall, skinny dude. A stress fracture in the foot is always concerning. So while he had a lot of the physical tools in his ability to block, his ability to shoot, his draft stock dropped because scouts were afraid that he would always be injury prone, which comes into the Denver Nuggets, now a contender.
Who never care about injuries. They're like, we'll take him.
Yeah.
Put him on the bus.
The Nuggets was such an interesting position because they have such a solid core of guys that they can take flyers on injury risk, which they did with Michael Porter Jr. And I think even from the hype alone, it was a worthy 15th pick. Michael Porter Jr. was supposed to be a top 3 player. Bol Bol was projected top 10 before he got injured. He fell all the way to 42. Nuggets picked him up with the intention of him not playing at all this season. He was still injured. So, he's 7'2". I think he came in to the Nuggets camp under 200 pounds.
And he didn't play that many D-League games or G-League games either. He played 6.
Yeah. I think one of the questions was, Bol Bol, lovely dude, but he absolutely has one of the strongest resting bitch faces I've ever seen. He looks so over it, no matter what it is, if you just look at him. And so scouts were afraid, he's just playing basketball because of his father's legacy. He doesn't love basketball. And so a lot of he also dropped to 52nd. He could have been a multimillionaire, but he's getting paid $50,000 a year. So that had to be a tough break. But there were a lot of just question marks around the dude. And he had good G League games, but nothing that popped off. But boom, Corona hits, Nuggets don't play for 4 months, and then all of a sudden, a young Bol Bol is now developed. His frame's a little bit bigger, and they put him into the game. I didn't get to see the first game, so Derek, what did you see?
Well, as you mentioned, the Nuggets only had one guard on the roster because of all of the guys that couldn't get into the bubble. And so they started Bol Bol along with Jokic and Millsap and Grant and Plumlee. So it was quite the lineup. But Bol Bol was very impressive both on the rebounding end and then on the shooting end because not only can he shoot from 3, but he and Jokic had a couple of great plays where they'd pass it back and forth and Jokic could find Bol Bol, make the basket. So it's like, to me, it's sort of like watching how we saw Dr. J play, where they like didn't have the inside game quite figured out. Like Dr. J could go inside, but he also had those short jumpers that were like 3 feet out, where he'd go straight up and down. That's Bol Bol's whole game because he only needs to go about like a foot to be able to get to the basket. So it's very interesting to watch. I couldn't believe his offense. Something that I've really been noticing and they've been talking about is that he does not understand defense at all, that his arms are big. Like he said in an interview, I found out that if I stick my arms out, it's really hard for people to go around me. And it's also very hard if you stick your arms up for anyone to go over you. So that is like his only weakness. But amazing to see. And as someone that watched a game with you in early March against the Lakers, where the size of the Lakers is the Nuggets' biggest weakness, you're just thinking, if he can get into the rotation, that's another big guy and gives them the ability to do a lot of things, which is their biggest weakness as a team against someone like the Lakers or the Pelicans.
Yeah, and like one thing that stood out to me, I got to see the last two games, was like when he's on the court, he's not timid. Like he is a shooter. And when we talk about like, well, does he actually want to play basketball? He had me fooled because he looks like someone who's like trying to develop a killer instinct.
Well, and I think being around Jokic has been very helpful because he's a guy that people are like, did he care or not? And Jokic is clearly like, they would sit next to each other on the bench and like, obviously they were 6 feet apart, but they were still talking. And like, I think Jokic is the perfect guy for Bol to be like, oh, this is what I could be, except I have a better outside game than Jokic. And Jokic has the passing. I have the outside game.
Yeah, and the blocking, like he's not good at defense, but he's long. He's so freaking long. Because 7'2" with a 7'6" wingspan, yeah, he just puts his hand up and he's contesting everything. It was interesting last night against the Magic. The Magic were hitting every single three that they just chucked up. Nuggets ended up losing that game, but they came back in part because Bol turned the motor on. Michael Porter Jr. had a great game. And if there's anything that would make Nuggets Reddit and Nuggets Twitter feel like ascended beings is seeing Michael Porter Jr. and Bol Bol in meaningful minutes do the things that we have dreamed about since those respective draft nights. It kind of causes a problem that still the Nuggets, I think Gary Harris and Monte Morris are slated to play on Saturday, having not even really practiced with the Nuggets. But once the team is fully healthy by the playoffs, we're going to have like a 13-deep roster. And Malone already doesn't like playing a lot of guys, and especially in playoffs, it's going to shrink. So like we may have seen the last like good performance from Bol Bol, but he's under contract for a while, super cheap. And
it's interesting just thinking about, like, what if they get down a bunch in a game? What if someone gets injured? Like, they have options, which in this year where we have no idea how the players' bodies are going to react to playing the most intense basketball right out of the gate, it's going to be interesting. And I think that sort of brings us into